Right, so I will give it a moment just to see if everybody can hear us, and I'll wait for some people to pop in, and then we'll get started. So if you are here, guys, if you could just give us a little heads up to say hi, to let us know that you can hear us, that you can see us, that would be great. All right, so yay, they can hear us and they can see us. Fantastic. Give me just a second, because for some reason all of the other bits and pieces have not pulled over, so I will deal with that in just a moment. But in the meantime, hello everyone, welcome to the Mercury Retrograde special with my amazing guest Denise Mathew from HD with HD Human Design, or Dynamic Human Design with Denise Mathew. She is a human design expert as far as I'm concerned, and she is brilliant at what she does. And as many of you know, we've done lots of collaborations together before. I am Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have all of you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know where you are. Where are you tuning in from in the world at this moment in time? That would be great. And we will shortly get into it. Denise, please say hi to everybody and let them know all about you. Where can they find you?
Well, I have been here a few times before, so I'm happy to be back again. Thanks for letting me join you in this lovely space, so we can talk about fun stuff. And yeah, I'm just over on YouTube, HD with Human Design, Human Design with me, basically, and it's just dynamic. And that's sort of something I came up with, which basically means that I go through the transits. When you get tired of looking at just your body graph or just studying you, this brings in other parts, the planets, and we can start to look at some events in your life, influences, and things that might be showing up in your trajectory, very much like astrology. So that's where I am. And I do have a website if anybody wants to check it out. There are some freebies. If you don't know anything about human design, I have a lot of freebies on my website, so you can check it out. It's just denisemathew.com. Very, very, very easy.
Yeah, by the way, as well, for those of you that don't know, Denise is the creator of this wonderful tool that I have been using for some time, the Human Design Oracle deck. I love these. I use them for so many different things, and even for all of my personal readings. And I was gifted a set, so I feel very, very lucky. So if you haven't got yours, or you don't know where, you can find them on Denise's website. So we are here to talk about the Mercury retrograde, as many of you know. Now, it's going to be an interesting one for a few reasons, right? And one of the main ones, can't see, I think we might have lost the connection.
Oh, really? Yeah. It says YouTube on my screen.
Oh, it says we're still live. Okay.
I could look online and see.
That's so random.
I see us, yeah.
We're still here? Okay. All right. Sorry about all of the tech issues, guys, but it wouldn't be a Mercury retrograde video without a tech issue or two, right? So people are tuning in from all over the place. We've got people in Chicago, Rhode Island, Oregon, Texas. Wow, amazing. Taliek, not sure where that is, but still awesome. All right, well, thank you so much for being here. Let's get straight into it. So When we're talking about a Mercury retrograde, what we're talking about is the planet Mercury, and Mercury is the planet that rules communication, conversation, reading, writing, speaking, patterns of speech, our thought processes, how we speak. So it's said that people that have Mercury in Taurus have beautiful voices, which is quite interesting to me, along with other placements, obviously. It's also the flow of information. So Mercury rules like the flow, the back and forth, right? And I have personally named Mercury the cosmic dancer. And the reason I call him that is because it's the planet that literally goes back and forth, right? It does that whole retrograde thing more than any other planet in the sky. And so for that reason, I kind of, you see it going back and forth, this whole retrograde energy. Now, Mercury also rules the transactional nature of money. So it rules sales, money, cash flow, the exchange of finances for goods, etc. So Mercury has a lot to do with money and merchants, as it's said. It also rules contracts as well, contracts, negotiations, anywhere that there is a deal to be made or a bargain to be struck in some way, shape or form, you're going to find a mercurial energy, or you're going to find the messenger god, as he's been called. So it also rules all manner of technology that's commonplace. So when you think about your phone, the computers that we're using right now, even I would say probably as going down to your AirPods, and all of that stuff. All of those things, including the internet now, come under the banner of Mercurial and Gemini energy. And the reason being is because these things like the internet is no longer this, yes, it's still Aquarian in the terms that it connects people digitally across the world over large sort of spans of time, space, etc. But it's a commonplace thing. Zoom, Skype, Teams, you've got these things now. They're so everyday, especially since the pandemic, right? It's stuff that we do literally in our sleep. I mean, we've got grandparents now, like on Zoom, on Skype, on Teams, and they're doing it just as well as the young people are, which shows you that really has been something now that's been integrated into our lives. And when we're talking about the commonplace in terms of information exchange, you are talking more about Gemini and the third house rather than sort of like the bigger or the broader stuff. So when we're talking about retrogrades, when a planet goes retrograde, from Earth's viewpoint at least, it looks like the planet is tracking backwards. Obviously, that's not what's happening because it's not possible, not as we understand it anyway. I mean, if you got into the quantum physics of the whole thing, maybe somebody would disagree. But as it stands, this represents a specific type of phenomena. So remember as well, astrology is a celestial divinatory art. And what that means is we observe, we track cycles, we track movements, we watch the celestial spheres to see what they're doing, to gain an insight and potentially wisdom into what they are likely to do when those things occur again, right? So the sun and the moon were the first celestial bodies of astrology. And, our ancient ancestors would have, it goes up, it disappears, right? Night happens, all of these crazy phenomena, they start to take notice. So when we're talking about a retrograde, because of that backward or moving backward kind of energy or symbolism, words like redo, words like renegotiate, remedial, research, to renege on a deal or to take back something, to redesign, to realize, to remember, to re-emerge, to reconnect, to reappear, to return. All of these are par for the course under a retrograde of any planet, but especially in a Mercury retrograde, because this is a personal planet and it's one that rules communication and technology and information, things that we really need or utilize a lot as human beings, right? So what we know is that a planet, when it goes retrograde, its symbolism and its energy tend to go more inward. They tend to slow down, and sometimes they'll track backwards, and at other times they'll completely fall apart. I can give you a really good example of this. I have a friend who runs her own very successful recruitment business. So she's always in the process of, finding jobs for people and connecting all sorts of stuff and all sorts of people and setting up contracts and deals. When Mercury goes retrograde, especially because it's quite tough in her chart, she's got a strong Mercury, deals that she puts together, they'll like fall apart, or people will just disappear. They'll stop answering emails and stuff. As soon as it goes direct, boom, 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 everything starts to move once more. So it's a really interesting thing to watch in your own life to see how it kind of plays out. So that in mind, thinking of everything that Mercury rules, it stands to reason that communications, pacts, promises, contracts, and even technology at this time tends to go a little bit awry. So I'll tell you this, I don't know if I've told you this story before, Denise. I used to work as a customer service agent, and every time Mercury would go retrograde, we had this problem with the phones that they could never diagnose, right? And I was like,
Oh.
I'm sure this is a transit somewhere. So I started to track the Mercury retrogrades, and lo and behold, literally every time Mercury went retrograde, we had this problem with the phones that they couldn't find fault with. So, I've seen this.
Very cool. Very cool.
Really literally. So emails will get missed or deleted. Or if you're anything like me and you're a scatterbrain already, you will CC your boss into an email that you really would rather they didn't see, which was fun. I'm glad he took it in good faith at the time. Miscommunication as well is going to be something that happens a lot at this time, right? So that's not all. Remember, there can be positives to retrograde energy, especially because the energy of the mind and speech and communication is turning more inward. So you start to look more at yourself. You start to really pay more attention to your own thoughts and feelings. And I really, when Denise opens this up for you guys later, you're going to really understand why understanding your own thought process and your own mind and questions that come up and continuously go around your mind is so important, especially for this Mercury retrograde, because it's Mercury, the planet of thought, mind, communication, going retrograde in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is about the embodied experience. It's about being in your physical self. So rather than just thinking with your mind and getting stuck on the hamster wheel, that's me, right? You bringing yourself into your whole body and you're thinking as a completely connected or symbiotic being, which will be really, really important, I think, for all of us. So got some do's and don'ts for you. 5 do's in a Mercury retrograde. Do finish or complete projects that have been outstanding for some time. It's a great time to wrap things up. Number 2, think about changing your mind or adapting and adjusting things that you've been working on. So using astrology obviously means doing this in the area of your chart that the retrograde is happening. So where is Taurus in your chart? What is that space representing for you in your life? That's where you can change your mind. That's where you can get rid of or change or adapt some kind of structure, Taurus, that needs to be dismantling. Taurus, with the Uranus energy in the background there as well, and the Mercury retrograde. Number 3, do get repairs to items that have needed to be mended. This is a great time to get things repaired, retrograde. Number 4, do renegotiate a contract or a decision that you've made. If there's something that you think, not quite happy with this, or this wording in my contract with the boss, with the whatever, this is a good time to do it. 5, shop second hand. You can absolutely bag a bargain in a Mercury retrograde. If you need a new phone, get a refurb. If you need, I don't know, a couch, go and buy something that you can reupholster. You'll get so much value out of secondhand things at this time. And for a bonus one, back up your hard drive before Mercury goes retrograde. Set up your passwords and your online security before this. So 5 don'ts for the Mercury retrograde. Don't buy something brand new, especially a technological item. Unless you've got a Mercury retrograde in your chart and you were born with this, don't do it, all right? I've seen some people really regret it under this transit, so just be mindful. Number 2, don't sign brand new contracts or negotiations. Number 3, don't start a new business, idea, or endeavor or project, especially if it's something that you're planning to put out into the world, because you might not communicate it as clearly as you'd hoped. And then, once you launch something, it's kind of already out there, right? And that energy that you had for the initial push is somewhat dissipated. Number 4, don't take everything you hear as truth or personally, because some of it might literally be a literal miscommunication. So when you hear something, maybe something that someone's telling you that they believe with absolute conviction is exactly how it is. And then when you do a little bit of digging, you're like, no, that's actually not the case. They might not be, on purpose giving you wrong information. It's just information that they have as they understand it. And then number 5, don't do anything without a backup. Don't change your passwords while Mercury is retrograde, or don't send documents, especially originals. Like if someone says we need a copy of this, don't send the original, especially under a Mercury retrograde, because the chances are you may not get it back. All right, so final observations before I hand you over to the amazing Denise. I see Mercury retrogrades as kind of like a clearing up time. It's almost like a mopping up, if you like. And the fact that this one's happening in the sign of Taurus is important, especially because it starts its retrograde on the 21st of April, and it will finish its retrograde on the 15th of May. That's the day before Jupiter comes into the sign of Taurus. This is important for a few reasons, right? So Taurus represents a certain energy or space within our charts. And what this kind of says to me is it's kind of like Mercury represents, young people, always doing something. They're busy, zipping here and there and everywhere, right? And what I kind of see Mercury as like the kid at home who's frantically cleaning the house because Uncle Dupe's coming round. Haven't seen him for so long, right? It's been 12 years since Jupiter was in the sign of Taurus. So Mercury's kind of getting the space ready, cleaning it up, right? What do we think about this? What do we understand about this area of our chart? Let's clean the house up before this wonderful energy of Jupiter shows up in this space. Now, the other thing as well with this, the dispositor of this Mercury retrograde is Venus. Venus is the ruler of this Mercury retrograde because she rules Taurus, and Mercury is going to be in Taurus. So there is what we call a mutual reception. So Venus is going to be in Gemini, Mercury is going to be in Taurus. These are signs that the other rule. So while she's not totally at peace in Gemini, even though it is an air sign, it is a mutual energy. They're speaking each other's language in a sense. And this is bringing a little bit of grace to our words, to our deeds, and potentially to our material experiences as well. Now, as I've said previously, Mercury is going retrograde at 15 degrees of Taurus. Now, as a decan, that is ruled by the 6 of Pentacles, right? So we're definitely going to see role reversals of fortune at this time, financially, materially. We could definitely see people reaching out to be benefactors of some type for other people, for sharing their knowledge, their wisdom, their resources, especially, which could be absolutely amazing. The other side of this, though, because as a tarot card, this Mercury in the sign of Taurus represents the 5 of Pentacles. And so this is potentially fortunes lost for some people. It's also on the other side of this could be people holding resources, hoarding resources and lording them over other people. So it's like, if you do this, then I'll give you this. And if you don't do that, then, you can't have any of this. I hope that's not what we see, but I do feel like it is probably going to show up somewhere. And the other thing that really feels relevant about this is Taurus rules money. It rules value, worth, what we attribute financial and, material wealth to. And for this reason, I kind of get the feeling that we are going to see some shakeups in that whole sphere, right? So make of that what you will at this time. The other thing as well, just to mention, Mercury is going to be in a continuing sextile to Mars in Cancer at this time, which means there's a dynamic and powerful energy behind this. So it's like through your feelings, if you're open to it, your feelings are going to inform your mind, and they're going to give you the strength that you need to see something through or to release something from your life. It is a retrograde after all, right? So, and then finally, as if that wasn't enough, all of this happens the day after the hybrid eclipse. So a pretty big deal, I would say. Denise, talk to us about the gates that are going to be impacted at this time.
Well, first of all, I wanted to touch on a few things that you said.
Yeah.
I love that Mars is involved with Mercury, because Mars plays a big deal in human design as well, because it's bringing an energy that's connecting during the time. So as much as we have the Mercury retrograde, I feel we have this backdrop of energy that is going to influence as much as anything. So we have these rules that we usually follow for Mercury retrograde. And one I would like to add in there was something that I always do, is never confront somebody or start a fight with somebody or anything like that. That was like, what was it? John Dee used to work with Queen Elizabeth I, and they never lost a battle, because they always made sure that they never made a battle happen during Mercury retrograde. So that's really good, because if somebody comes at you or something like that, usually they'll lose the battle. And I've seen this happen over and again, of course, with Mars retrograde as well. But yeah, and I think that if you look at like the whole trend of what's happening right now, and you are talking about Jupiter, yesterday, just by chance, I was just looking at, I don't know, I like to look at historical facts, and I noticed that Apple began its whole incorporation on April 1st, 1976. And it happened when Jupiter was in the gate 3, which is basically moving into Taurus energy. So I love the connection. And that if you look at the news right now with AI and all the things that the chat GTP and all those types of things, I mean, this really does herald something that's going to be big. And I already talked about that last year, like 2022, I said, we had the nodal change, the 4323. And I mean, this was, I said, this is bringing in all this mutative energy. How it will play out, we'll see next year. And I think that is what we're doing. We're unfolding. And with Jupiter going to be playing up with Pluto during the Mercury retrograde and for almost the whole month of May, that's going to bring in a lot of basically it's mutative energy, but it's also energy that is bringing in this concept of, we have this right now, let's make something brand new from it. And that's sort of what this is, mutation. Like we have mutation, whereas brand new just kind of comes out of, it seems like, the ethers. And then we have mutation that comes out of, we have all these items, let's make something completely unrelated. So for instance, like you take the plastic water bottles and they recycle them, and what do they make them into? A lot of things that you would never imagine where it was a recycled water bottle. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the gate 28 and the gate 27, which are in the nodal, the nodes right now. And that is another thing when you talk about the rise and fall of money and people and power. Gate 28 talks about that energy. There's a lot of different themes in every particular gate, but the gate 28 talks about this rise in power, people rising to a high level and people falling to to below something where they were before. And I think that I think we're also looking at, as you say, the distribution of wealth, and that's going to be playing up in that is a theme in Mercury, with Mercury going to be talking about with the gate 27, and this is like the distribution of wealth. And again, this is only accentuating this idea of the nodes where we have we're moving toward the south node. We're moving towards the north node, which is the gate 27, and we're moving away from the gate 28, which is the north node, which is the south node. Haha. There I am.
We love it. That Mercury retrograde is it's already doing its thing, right?
I have 6 planets ruled by Mercury, so please forgive me.
Oh, no,
and I'm glad we're doing this early on in the month, because I always get very nervous that things are just going to go all over the place.
Mm.
Another background thing that I think is going to be, the gate 27 also talks about money and management, and it talks about food distribution, it talks about resources, those types of things. And this is more sort of a cool side of the energy. So we have what, in human design, we have this tribal energy. Tribal energy is what makes the world go round, and we can, it's what we live by. Like, we need to have food, we need to have shelter, we need to have children, to have more people in the world, and humanity needs to grow. We can't, if we all stopped, everybody said, I'm never having children, I'm never going to procreate, of course we would die out as a species. So when we talk about tribal energy, it really is talking about all those types of things, those resources, and all the things we need to bring up our children. And the gate 27 is one of those things. That is the caring that we need to bring up our children. But it is really more of it can be very feeling energy in one way, but it's sort of on the other side of the body graph, where it's sort of a cooler energy, an awareness energy, the intuition of a parent with their child. That's what the gate 27 can talk about. Now we go to the other side, we have the hot and really hot and spicy energy, but also hot energy where we have this excitement, give me something to experience. And it also gets into aggression when things are not going right. So we're having this duality of energy, because when Mercury first starts retrograding early on, and that would be from, I think, the 21st right until about the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this slowdown of energy, and you also have all this idea of, we're not sort of supposed to be getting out there and doing a bunch of things. But what's happening at that same time is we have the full 35, 36 emotional channel, manifesting channel. And this is a channel that is connected to experiences in life. This is like, I want to get out there. I want to go to Mars, we're always building on that next experience. It's the expectation that comes when you want to go and do something. So a lot of people might want to start planning trips and doing things like that. Now that will work out. But if you do something on the spur of the moment, now that's another story, because it is potential for you to jump into an experience that maybe you don't necessarily have all you don't really want to do it, but in the moment it feels really good, because that's emotional energy, and emotional energy can get us to do something that maybe we don't necessarily like, sort of, when you put yourself in, you sign your name up to do something, and then later on you go, oh gosh, why did I do that? No, and you have to do it. So that is a background frequency that we're going to be having during this Mercury retrograde, right in the beginning until the 25th. Exactly, those two channels. So we have the gate 36, and that's Neptune, and then we also have the Venus is going to be in the gate 35. And so Venus is saying, oh, I want to have something pleasurable, I want to have something good, I want to have something passionate. This could even be jumping into sexual encounters that maybe you didn't really think about, maybe that wasn't, or starting a new relationship again during Mercury retrograde. If you go into Mercury retrograde with a wide open mind, it says, okay, if I do decide to do this, if my inner knowing, whatever that is, that feeling of, yes, this is correct for me. Everybody has their inner knowing. Everybody has that hit of intuition, that gut feeling, that kind of body, even a body knowing where, I had my son came home, he's working in a school, and he had a connection with a person that one day. And he said, it made me feel almost nauseous to be around this person. It was like an awful feeling. What is that telling you? He said, what does that mean? I said, that's your body telling you that is not a good interaction. That's not a good relationship. That person isn't for you. So we oftentimes get these feelings with our body, and human design is one of the pillars of human design is listen to your body. What is your body telling you? What does your body want from you? Where's your body leading you? When you're lost, sometimes just walking will take you where you need to go. I mean, that's happened to me enough times that I can say, yes, this is a true thing. The whole reality is, the human design premise is that our body is part of the Maya. Our body is part of the manifest earth. Our minds are of almost like the ethers. And yeah, we have a lot of ideas of what we should do or what we shouldn't do, but is it always correct? Probably not. If your mind says something, if your mind says something, what does your body say? If you get butterflies in your stomach about something, and you feel excited, and you're excited, and your mind says we're never doing that. A good example is for instance, okay, so say you're a child and you don't know how to swim, and you come to a pool, and somebody says, okay, you can go in and you could be all right. And your mind says, no, I'll just drop like a rock. Now, most children won't do that. Most children kind of don't listen to their mind. They just want to jump in because it's exciting.
Yeah.
But how about if you're older and you say, well, I'll just drop like a rock. But then you get in the water and you flatten out and you float. Because what did your mind tell you? It was completely wrong. You were not going to drop like a rock. You were going to float. And so there's enough of those instances in our lives where our mind is telling us one thing, but our body knows way, way better. And this is, the more you get in touch with your body, what it needs, what it wants. I think that there's a guy, and I think his name is Brian Johnson. He's a guy, he's been very popular in the news lately, and he's a guy that sort of reversed his aging process. He went on this really crazy, and he almost looks angelic the way he looks. I mean,
he does, doesn't it? There's kind of almost like an etherealness about him. It's almost like he's transcended human. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's
transcendent. And so what he and I was watching it the other day. He was doing an interview with I think Piers, the British guy, Piers. Yes, Piers Morgan. Yes. So I was watching it, and he was saying, I fired my mind. He said, my mind was making all the wrong decisions for me. And science brought me together with the perfect, diet, the perfect whatever. Now, of course, it's extreme. Of course, most people can't live like that. But the information that he is actually going to bring to the collective so that we can actually benefit from it is immense. But what it did say was his mind was giving him all the wrong answers. He was eating the wrong things. He was feeling uncomfortable. He was very depressed, and so many other things. So the body can tell us. And I'm kind of diverting off, but it all goes back to the gate 27, where Mercury will be retrograding. And the gate 27 is really about nurturing ourselves as much as we're nurturing others. What is your body telling you it needs? What is it telling you it wants for food, for rest? Because a lot of times we'll say, well, I can't sleep. I got to do this, this, and this. And a lot of times it's like mindlessly watching, flipping through Instagram, or watching a movie that's not very good, but you're like, I'm in anyway, I'm gonna just watch it. Or just eating popcorn and just where your body's saying, we want to sleep now, like I'd really like to sleep, and you're like, yeah, right, screw off, I'm doing my stuff here, I'm watching this show.
Like 2 days ago I was sat there and you're forcing yourself to be present. And I was just like, just go to bloody bed, man. You're like, it was really early for me personally. I was just like, my brain was like, no, we should just be watching this right now. And everything else, my eyelids, my body was just like, just go to bed. That's what we want. That's what we need right now. Wow. Thank you so much for that. And I think there's some really awesome points that I'd like to pick up on with you, because you've mentioned so many things that feel like they're showing up in the world right now. So last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but we did a talk, Denise and myself, and she talked very much about the mutative energy of technology and how we were going to see a big rise and a big wave of technological things. With the advent of everything that we're seeing on the wider world stage right now, this is absolutely it. And when you mentioned this mutative energy, and taking all of the pieces that we've already got, because ChatGPT has been out for quite a while. I've got friends that work in the tech sector who have been using it for a good while before it became popular. So this idea of taking something that already exists and now you've got people creating like 6-figure businesses from it. Just, like taking something that already exists and using it in a completely different way, or applying it in another way. So like you predicted that, and here we are living it this year, which is really exciting and really awesome. The other thing as well, with everything that you're talking about there, when you think about Taurus ruling food and the body, and Uranus ruling technology, Uranus is currently in the sign of Taurus, right? Finding new ways to look after. Now, I don't know if any of you remember this so in 2018, I put out a set of videos on Uranus in Taurus, and I talked a lot about discovering the fountain of youth. Now, it's probably still a long way off, but I guarantee you within the next 10 years, we are probably going to see some really amazing and potentially kind of creepy stuff to do with, anti-aging and stuff. So really, really interesting that this is happening now. The other thing with the Uranus in Taurus, because remember, Taurus is a feminine sign. Earth is a feminine element, right? And when you talked about the nodes and stuff, there was something that really hit me. I don't know if you've seen this. There's a new show called The Power. And it's about how women they've developed a new gland that is literally right by the throat. Taurus rules the throat, right? And they are developing these electric kind of powers that they're able to kind of generate in their bodies. Well, Uranus rules electricity in the sign of Taurus, which is a feminine sign, right? And it also Taurus ruling the body. I just found it really, really fascinating in the symbolism and with everything that you talked about there. The other thing as well, with this energy, I wanted to ask this, because one thing, when I read this card in particular, the Gate 35, I always say to people, your own experience has to speak above all else. And when you said, trust your body, trust yourself, maybe not always your mind, right? And I totally resonate with that. And what tends to come through for me with that Gate 35 card is I say to people, it's not like if someone says to you, oh yeah, my friend went there and they had an awful time, you shouldn't bother. Right? Yeah. That's great. That's their experience, but your experience might be something completely different. And that's what you need to go with. Like if you have something calling you or pulling you in a certain direction, trust that your body knows exactly where it's supposed to go, right? Just like Denise said earlier with the following your body when you've been lost previously. I used to do this thing where, like, if there was a lost item, if it were in the house, I could literally go straight to it. I'd just put my hand up and have a little feel, and I would just follow my hand, right? And ta-da, there it is. And it really is that simple. Your body is so clever. And we've got this thing in our physical cells called the proprioceptive nervous system. You know all about this. It's how you can close your eyes and touch your nose at the same time, right? Your body knows where it is in space at any given moment in time. Because we are not just brains and, sacks of meat, although some people in the public eye, you might argue. Right, we're more than that. We've got an intuition and a higher mind and a higher dimension, which means that this body doesn't just know where it is in physical space, it knows where it is in spiritual space and in the astral realm at the same time, the same way we've got an aura. So some really awesome things that you touched on there as well in terms of food and diet. And I loved what you said about with your son and the experience that he had. And this is a really important one, guys. Like when your body gives you an experience like that and says, I either really like rudimentary psychic ability, spiritual awareness 101. If you get the roller coaster gut where it kind of goes, boom, and you're like, oh, that is a no, right? That's your body telling you this is not the direction for you. If you get the popcorn chest, that kind of excited, happy-go-lucky feeling in your chest, that's your body telling you it's a yes. That's how I learned to differentiate in the really early days with my intuition. For some people, depending on the level of trauma and challenge and difficult history you've got, when you come into contact with someone that you think, wow, this person's really good looking and my body's having this amazing reaction to them, read a little more into it, because you might confuse that. If you've had a really difficult history with partnerships and relationships and stuff, you might confuse that to say, well, I'm having such a strong reaction to them, maybe I'm supposed to be with this person. And maybe, just maybe, you're interpreting those signals the wrong way. So really do be present in your body enough and don't attribute like Denise said, get out of here, right, and get into all of this. It'll never steer you wrong. Fascinating. Sorry, there was just so many things I wanted to share. So please continue.
No, those are all great points. And I mean, that is, I think that we're so trained to be out of our body, in that we are, and I think that, yeah, we can meditate and we can go to higher spiritual realms and we can go to other dimensions. And I remember that there was a person I used to go to meditation with years ago, and he said something like, I went to this other dimension and it was so much better than here. And I thought, we have a life. This is our life. Let's live it, and we will go to another dimension someday. We will. There's, death will meet us all at some point. But until then, live your life. meditate if you like, step out of your body if you want to, do all those types of things, but live in your body just as much as you do all those other things. And I mean, that's really the trick, or that, that is the trick that of human design, to live in your body and to allow it to really show you its magic, and to speak its language, to decipher its language. But the other perspectives, if I go back to the Mercury retrograde, the other thing that we'll be doing is we'll be looking at the gate 2, and Mercury is going to be back in the gate 2 now. For a lot of 2022, Uranus was going through the gate 2, exactly, and this is the direction. So the symbolism of the card is that is the idea that the moth is a lunar being, and it travels by the moon. But what happens is we have so much artificial light, it gets kind of confused, and that's why we have moths and banging against lights at night. So because it's confused. And I think that a lot of us can be in that same position where we are confused, our direction in life, where are we going, what are we doing? What human design says is that we have this internal compass. Again, this is part of our body, this connection of our body that knows where we're meant to go, but the mind will say no, no, no. That's it's like this idea of what you just said about your gut, and everything feels like, oh gosh, no, this feels terrible, but your mind says, no, it's a great opportunity, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you go and do it, and you go, why did I ever do that? Everything was in my body, but you know what I mean? So this is like aligning with that inner knowing, that's saying, okay, no, this may not be correct for me. And yes, all the things line up, and maybe it looks good on paper, but does it feel good? And stepping into that energy of feeling, does it feel good? No, it doesn't feel good. Well, and maybe it's not right. And I think that a lot of times, like, the biggest things that we see is people working in jobs that they don't like, and they're there for the money. And that is another energy that Mercury is bringing us with the gate 2. It's saying, okay, are you working for your empowerment to feel good about your life? Exactly. What is that? The 6 of Pentacles?
The 5 and the 6
Are you
of
working?
Pentacles,
Yeah. Are you working for your empowerment, or are you working because you feel it's nice, it's a prestigious job, or because you have to, or because of something? To find happiness in our life, we need to find something that makes us feel fulfilled. Most of us, some of us can generally go to a job and just do it, and it's not a big deal. It's just like, some people look at a job as a place to make money, and then you come home and you live your real life, and that's okay too. If that's your perspective, then that's fine. But if you are looking at your life purpose, your life trajectory, the path that you want to walk in your life, the gate 2 is really showing you that you can do that. Now, Uranus pointed us in a lot of directions. Everybody would have had some ideas of what was happening in 2022, and right up in until sort of the beginning of May, Uranus will still be in the gate 2. And basically it's saying, Uranus in human design is called the sidetrack, where it takes you off your path, kind of. Years and years ago, we were blessed enough to go to Australia. And I don't know if I've told this story again before, but I will tell it again. We went off and we had a GPS, but it was kind of old. It hadn't been updated. So we went off on this side road. And the one thing we really wanted to see in Australia was kangaroos. And so we went off the side road. It wasn't on the GPS. We were like not even knowing what we were doing. It was getting dark, but we saw all these wonderful kangaroos jumping in the fields and just jumping in the wild. And I thought, wow, that is like, that was an experience that you really can't put enough money in the world on. It would never be able to value it as much as it was for us, because, we got to see it in the wild. And then it brought us back onto our main path. So this is what Uranus was doing. It was taking you off the sidetrack. Yes, it's still getting you ahead in life. Like, we were still further ahead than when we had gone off the sidetrack. Like, we were still further ahead in our destiny. But having said that, we had learned so much. We had this experience. We got a glimpse of something that maybe would have shifted something that you want to go in a different direction. Something said, okay, I've been doing this for all my life. This is the time. The big question is, if not now, when? This is when. And Mercury is coming in and saying, okay, Uranus gave you all this information about your direction in life, your true north, where you want to go. Now you have to use it for your life going forward. Let's lock in those coordinates and decide, okay, this is where I want to go, because Uranus is going to leave this energy, the gate 2, and it won't be back again for another 82 years. So this is it. It's giving you the message, and here you go. Do as you will with it. Now you can always stay back where you were and not change. That's your opportunity. We all have our free will to decide and do what we want. but is a little bumpy, change is a little messy, and it's like being like, as they say, the butterfly in the cocoon. You're in the goo, you're being dismantled, but then you're getting, opened up again. And the other perspective is eventually the cocoon will break open, but some people want to be in that cocoon. They don't want to get out. They're like, no, I'm good here. But if you never spread your wings, you'll never fly. So you have to be in the cocoon as long as you need to, but you also have to come out of it as long as when it's timing as well. And that's sort of the energy that the gate 2 is sort of telling us. Lock in your coordinates, go with that true north and move forward. So the other gate is a gate 24. Now, do you want to have some comments? I don't want to just keep doing a monologue.
No, just, you know what? There was so much just so much value in everything that you've just said. It's unreal. And I felt like you were talking to me right at one moment. I was like, yeah, I'm
always talking to you. I'm always talking to you.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, fabulous. Really, thank you. Oh my gosh, and it's so true. I think this is, especially nowadays, like in this era, like sometimes we can have that information overload, right? And you can get the analysis paralysis, and there comes a point where you have to just kind of say, okay, you know what, these wings are either going to fly, or I'm gonna hit the deck a couple of times, but you know what, I'm still gonna get up and I'll be just as strong, if not stronger, for it. So I really need to just kind of trust myself, the universe, my wings, my ability to read the astral cosmic weather or whatever it might be, and just keep going. And it leads me really perfectly onto just the last bit that I want to say, and then we'll get more into the human design, because this is just phenomenal. Thank you. All right, so if we're saying that a Mercury retrograde in general is a time where we're going more into our minds, where we're going more inward, right? So forget this just being more inward into our mind. This is the mind turning inward into the body, because Taurus is about the body. It's about the embodied experience. What is real? What is tangible? What is valuable to follow or to know? And nobody else can really tell you, aside from like the value of things like money, food and whatnot. And even then, nobody can tell you what the value of anything is for you in your own life. Only you know what you attribute true wealth and true value to, right? If you want to get a hint of what that might be, look to where Taurus is in your chart. It's going to give you some kind of understanding to say, okay, well, this is where I try to find true wealth and value. And these are the things that actually make me feel good. Taurus is a slow and steady energy. It doesn't just win the race. This is an energy that says, okay, I can see the pathway and I'm just going to plod along until I reach the destination that I need to reach. Because this is a Mercury retrograde, it might take a few goes, right? So as I said earlier, this thing about like, okay, you've got to test these wings out. Maybe the first time I only go a couple of feet. Maybe the second time I go, double that. Maybe the third time I go a bit more. And then eventually, yeah, okay, to give you a geeky example, because that's me, if you saw the Man of Steel film, even Superman didn't get it right the first couple of times. He, and then he smashed into a mountain. Okay, that's not going to be us, but eventually when he trusted it and got into his own body and said, okay, you know what? I kind of know how to do this. I just need to feel it. And you can actually, I got goosebumps, I'm talking about this, right? And you can actually see that moment where he kind of takes off and he's like, okay, I've got it. And then when he just kind of lets it go, he flies, right? Same thing in Wonder Woman 1984, the sequel with Gal Gadot. It was in the second film that she was like, okay, I can kind of, no, hits the deck a couple of times, but then the next time, just feel it. Let the body open up, right? We're talking about Taurus after all. So what you're being asked to look at in this area of Taurus in your chart, which is, Taurus is a fixed sign, so nothing's going to happen overnight. And the fact that we've got this happening in the same space as Uranus, we have what here feels like a really powerful chance to dismantle something that has been way too solid, way too rigid, that maybe on our own, we wouldn't have changed. You know what? Actually, it's too comfortable in this cocoon. I'm just, like you say, right? I'm going to stay here because it's comfortable. But actually, some element of fate or being pulled off your path, that Uranus energy in the background there with that Mercury retrograde says, no, okay, I can do this. And whether I like it or not, this change is happening. So I can ride it or I can allow it to ride me. Which is it going to be? So something here in all of our lives is being busted wide open, whether we like it or not, right? But in the same time, we're getting a chance to really go over and to recreate something. It's a retrograde after all. So this is it, right? Like, be open to it. Taurus is found in everybody's chart, lovely. I can see you in the chat, and everybody has Taurus somewhere in their chart. Even if it's an empty space, you'll still have Taurus energy in your chart. And you'll need to look to Venus because she's the ruler of Taurus. What does Venus do in your chart? That'll give you some clue. But I hope that kind of helps, guys. And Denise, I'm going to hand it back over to you because that is me.
No problem. That's that, and I love the connection with the body, because this is exactly what we're going to be getting into. I love that. To me, that's like the best part of this retrograde, that we do have an opportunity to step into something brand new and have a connection that we maybe never had before. The last gate that Mercury will be going through is a gate 24. A gate 24 is something that factored in quite a bit last year as well. It connected with the gate 61, and this is returning exactly. So what better energy than returning for Mercury retrograde? But having said that,
and the butterflies.
yeah, they all come back to that was based on the whole idea of the monarchs and their passage through they come from Mexico to North America, and it's returning, and it's not even the same butterflies, it's their offspring that do it. That's what I thought was so incredible. So that's where that inspiration came from. But having said that, like the gate 24 is one of those interesting gates because it is an ajna gate, but it's also an awareness gate. So we have the ability to gain some awareness about something in our lives. This is, again, mutative energy, something brand new where we haven't seen it before. It can be this idea that you want answers to certain important questions, or you think important questions in your life and you're not getting the answers, like, why is that not happening? So what'll happen sometimes is it's easy to get to the point where you go outside of yourself and you start looking for the answers, like looking for that quick fix to get that sort of band-aid to make you feel, okay, yes, I have some sort of an answer. But more than nine out of 10 times, it's not going to be the answer that you want, and it's not going to be the answer that you need. This can be connected to addictions. This can be connected to going back to the same thing over and over again, rationalizing behavior that maybe isn't in your best interest. So with Mercury here, it is going to say, like, what are we doing that maybe isn't, great for us? What can we let go of? What can we, replace it with? What is something that we're always going back to, but we always say, oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing this, but yet I'm doing it and I'm doing it and I'm doing it,
Einstein's insanity.
Exactly. So the only way to get change is to change and to let go. And it is not always easy to do that. But with Mercury here, it will be easier to drift back into old patterns and not necessarily good patterns, because we're returning to something that we used to know. It could be that you started a pattern or something new that kind of was feeling good, and you let go of it, and maybe you're returning back to that because it's good for you, and you're thinking, yes, this is good for me. But ultimately, the one thing that we really have to watch about with the gate 24 is legitimizing behavior that shouldn't be legitimized. And I think that it is easier to look at it from that perspective. Well, A, B, and C is this, so it has to be this. The other thing with the gate 24 is sometimes it can get you sort of locked in your mind. And I would say it's like sort of stale air, in your head. It's the same mind spin of circling and really not getting anything. And this idea that if I keep thinking something will come. No, it will not come. Sometimes you have a problem and you can't figure it out, and you do it and I'm just going to sit with this until I get it. And you can't, because it's just not the time. You let go, you have a sleep, the next morning, bing, there you go, got your answer, whatever it is. And this is the awareness that comes with the gate 24. It comes when it decides. You can't make it come any faster. So if you feel like you're getting locked in your thoughts, if you feel like you're getting locked in this, this over and over again spinning mind, getting out into the world and doing something like getting into nature is one of the best things. If you can't do that, doing something where you need to focus, doing something with your body where your body needs to focus. Like I find like something that you have to, especially like some sort of a ball sport where you have to catch a ball, or you have to move your body in a certain place, or you have to, you have to really physically be present, is really great for getting out of your mind space and being able to take a break, get a breather, get some fresh air. And then, you can always go back to that mind spin, but ultimately we all need a break, because it does get to the point where we do want to get into it. It can be connected to addictions, and the addictions come from the idea that we need a break from that space of our mind just spinning and spinning and spinning. So we do something that will numb it in some way, and that could be drugs, it could be food, it could be sex, it could be even extreme behavior of any kind, like extreme sports, like just getting out there to get an adrenaline rush so that you could no, and that's all good and well in its own place. But if it's getting to be sort of a tool that you're using to get away from that space, that is something that we just have to watch for. Again,
That's
it's
really great.
yeah, no
Sorry,
problem.
just wanting to add, because and it's so true as well. Like, it said that food is the most, certainly for me, most overused addiction or drug, and exercise is the most underused form of healthcare, or something along. I'm paraphrasing that, but it's really true. And what you were saying about this thing about thought processes and dogmatic thoughts as well, really interesting that that's coming up as such a powerful theme in the human design, because in astrology, Mercury in Taurus is actually prone to repeating itself. To really saying something over and over to drive the point home. So because that energy is going inward, right? Mercury is turning retrograde. So our mind going inward to get on that hamster wheel and just go and go and go. So powerful. I know something that you've written before about the energy of the gate 24 was that it's okay to, and what you were saying there earlier as well, it's good to take breaks from reality, but not to get stuck in the illusion of it all. What you mentioned there as well about the doing something physical with your hands and, catching balls and stuff. Mercury rules the hands, right? Like, and the dexterity of hands and stuff. Venus, obviously being the ruler of Taurus, is the body. And because we've got Mercury in Venus's sign and Venus in Mercury's sign at the time in that mutual reception, that's really powerful. So if you can do things that do like hand-eye coordination, things that you have to use your whole body, but also your mind for, you're building that symbiotic connection between mind and body, like really pulling those energies together. And I know I just have to mention this because it's so awesome. And when I read what you wrote, I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to hear this. In terms of the dogmatic thoughts and the patterns, guys, something that Denise wrote, and I think this is so apt, when you find yourself getting on that hamster wheel in the mind, ask yourself 3 questions. What is worth knowing? What is not worth knowing? And what can never be known? If that doesn't, like, just my whole body just went like, like literally just, yeah. If that doesn't snap you out of it, then maybe nothing will. And I don't say that to be mean or awful, but it's so true. When you can find that level of surrender, it's such a simple thing, but to say, what, I might never get the answer to this, and that's just going to have to be okay. Sorry, I had to share that because when I read it, I was just like, this is it's like, oh, right.
No, and I'm glad you jumped in and said that, because those are those are the 3 main mantras of the energy of the gate 24, and that is like written right in the Ravi Ching. That is the 3 mantras. What is knowable? What isn't knowable? And how you said it, basically, what is knowable that is important to my life? What is knowable that isn't important to my life? And what can never be known? And really deciding which is which, because if you are always trying to, as you say, why does this happen? Why is that person like that? Something like that. Like, Why is that person like that? Well, you're never going to know sometimes, you know? I remember a friend of mine years and years ago, and she had this one boyfriend, and he was a bit of an interesting card, and we would just spend hours talking about why he was why he was, and we were doing the whole spinning of the wheels. It's literally nothing. It was fun to do. It was no harm. But if that is something that is your life and you're living in your mind because you can't get out of it, then that's another story altogether. And the other perspective is we can get addicted to this idea of somebody else knowing something that we don't know. Oh, they know. I don't know. They know. So you get sort of so wrapped into what somebody else is saying that you start to ignore your own inner knowing because you think they know better. Oh, can you please tell me what my life's about? Can you tell me who I am? Can you tell me where I'm supposed to go in my life? No, you can tell and that is, again, this addiction to something outside of you telling you what your life is about. But and yeah, it's not easy to pull all the things out of the toy box and decide, yes, this is what I need. This is not what I need. But it is part of the work that we're meant to do. And when you do it, and when you actually get one of those awareness moments, and this will bring these really cool awareness moments where you go, oh my gosh, wow, now I get it. And it means so much, and that's sort of what the bottom line is that we get. Now back, if I move on from there and I look at the idea of, we talked about the gate 30, the 35, 36 emotional energy, the gate 25, that's going to be until April 25th. We also have Mars moving into, and we talked about Mars, you mentioned Mars as well. We're moving into the gate 53. Now, this is a big energy because we also have Jupiter in the gate 42. And this is a full channel. It's called the channel of cycles or the channel of maturation. It's completely related to this idea of the experiences of being alive, the things that we do, the way we grow if we look at the circle of life, we know that when you come full circle, or what it feels like full circle, you're not the same person that started that journey. You're going to be completely different in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things, a lot of new items, new experiences that you have with you that you didn't have before. So never think that when you feel like you've come full circle, that you're in any way losing out. You've gained so much. And that's the most important thing. We're always gaining experience as we move forward in life. This is basically a new cycle. This is starting cycles. This is getting on a treadmill, pressing in the buttons and saying, okay, I'm going to be on this treadmill and I'm going to go through this cycle. And this cycle has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I'm going to have a full experience. Now, the thing is that this is a big cycle, in that if you get off it, there's always this level of what could have been if I had gone through. Why didn't I finish that? That thing that you always think about because you didn't finish it, and you just feel regretful, and sometimes you feel like a quitter, and there's a multitude of things. So that's why when you get on one of these cycles, you want to make sure that it's something that you've planned, decided, and you want to go forward. And I know that Mercury retrograde is usually a time that we say that, no, please do not start something new and all those types of things. But I think that we can break the rules a little bit. If we're looking at the cycle energy,
I love a rule break.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Right. There's this gate, it's called gate 50 line 4. It's called corruption. Basically it's breaking the laws and making new ones. I have it. So I like to tweak things like human design. I brought in my own little spin of it. Like I like to do the planets and all the stuff I'm doing. I mean, that's corruption. But Richard Rudd, who's another person who was originated with human design, he has corruption too, and he started the gene keys. So there is beauty in all energy. There's nothing negative in anybody's body graph. There's nothing negative in anybody's astrology chart. It's all there to learn, to live, and to experience. But having said that, I would say that if you decide that, you have your body energy that's saying, yes, this is what I want to do. This is really important. And yes, it is Mercury retrograde. Sometimes building on an old cycle, like this would be building on an old cycle, for instance. So say you have a business model and you've gone to this certain point and now you want to take it up another level. That can very well work in this energy. The other perspective is you're closing something out completely and you're beginning something new. And it's sort of like a cycle of energy. So you will know what is correct for you. You know, if it feels like it's right for you to break the rules, then break the rules. But if it feels like, no, I want to wait until after, you know, Mercury is retrograde, do that as well. Energy is yours to work with, to align with, to allow it to flow and to feel what feels correct for you. And when you do that, you'll, as you say, you get into something, and if it's wonderful, it's wonderful. If it doesn't work out like you want it, it's experience. And you know what, that's the key. Everything we do in our life, no matter what we consider positive and what we consider challenging, is an experience that makes us grow, makes us who we are, and it makes us a better version of ourselves, because we know that if we had this utopian, like everybody says, oh, I only wish we had a utopian, environment. I was like, no, I'm good to be in an environment where we have our falls and we have to stand up again, because that's how we learn. We're humans. I think it would be the most boring thing. There was that movie Wall-E. It was like an animation, and everybody was on a plane and they were all
It was
virtual
so
reality.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. But it showed what it got to be like when you had this utopian, where they felt it was utopian. And I say that in quotation marks, because it wasn't utopian. They weren't living, they were sitting, they were not having a real life. They were having a virtual life. And I think that is really important to be able to get into a real life as much as you're getting into the virtual life. And that's something that will be a big theme, I think, as we're going forward. And based on this idea of technology growing, one more thing is that I think is the new currency. And I've been saying this over and again, and I know that I'm probably getting like a broken record, but why not be a broken record? You're different in some way. But having said that, is this authenticity. Why from a non-astrological, from a human design, from a non-divinatory perspective, why do we want to be authentic? Why do we want to get cut to the chase? Why do we want to say what the truth is? Don't come in with the glitz and glam. Don't polish things up and say, oh yes, la la la. Give them the truth, like right in your face. Why? Because that's what AI does. When you type in a prompt and it gives you the answer, it doesn't say, well, if you want to buy this, this, and this, you can get this and this. And then this beautiful, image of something or other. It gives you the straight facts. And that is the currency of the future. Authenticity, shoot from the hip, say your truth. Your truth will win the day. And that's the energy that we're really looking as we go forward into, the future and going forward. And mutation is like so rife at this particular time in life. And Jupiter is also going to be making a move to connect with Pluto. And I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let you get in there and see what you have to say.
A brilliant thing that you brought up there, because Jupiter isn't just, yes, it's the lord of levity and happiness and abundance and growth and all that stuff as well, but actually Jupiter rules integrity. So the fact that Mercury is clearing up that space for Jupiter to come into the sign of Taurus, we're about to really put the material world, money, resources, the things that we attribute high value to, all of that is about to be put in its proper place. That's what Jupiter is going to do. It's going to bring integrity to the banking system, to finances, to resources. It's going to make us really kind of say, like, yes, it will create luxury and, all that stuff. It will absolutely do that. But because Jupiter is an energy of integrity, I think this Mercury retrograde is special in that regard. It's preparing us, because when Jupiter comes into Taurus, and I love what you said about cycles, right? Don't miss this one, because Jupiter coming into Taurus is going to be a 12-year transit, right? What I mean by that is when it comes into Taurus, it hasn't been in Taurus for 12 years. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen for 1 year and then it will move on, right? So think back to 2012. Was the last time that Jupiter was, I checked, 2012 was the last time Jupiter was in the sign of Taurus. And interestingly enough, Mercury went retrograde in the sign of Pisces at that time. But, think back to 2012 and what an interesting year that was. Something that you mentioned with the gate 24 as well, that I found really interesting was the use of the melancholia. And this is something we've talked about loads over, because it's, when you feel that, like, you feel that, not like a sinking feeling, but it's like it's like that. If you can use that in a creative way or to really think outside of the box, that's when you're going to be really following it in a good way, I think. And this whole idea about authenticity, I think, is really important. And it's not what other people tell you is authentic. No one can tell you what your truest authentic self is. All you can do is live who you truly are, what you think, what you feel, what you want, to say what you feel you need to say. Some people are going to love you for it. Some people are going to loathe it. You know what? We are all walking Marmite jars. All right. We've got this, we've got Marmite here in the UK. We've got this advert and it says Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. That's it, right? Every single one of us is human Marmite. Some people are going to love you for who you really are. Some people are going to hate you for it, but it's got nothing to do with you either way. So yeah, I think this Mercury retrograde is definitely going to be an interesting one. The other thing that you mentioned as well, with the gate 24 that I thought was really interesting was sound, and how sound and messages that come through words were going to be really important. Because one of the things that I thought was, maybe it's going to be clairaudient messages. So your intuition starts to speak to you in certain ways. And once I'd read it, I was like, yeah, booking myself in for a sound bath. That was one of the first things that I did after reading it, because I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And that's why I love when you sort of bring those connections in, because I will say those types of things, but then I've heard of sound baths, but I generally don't. I don't think I've really gone in one in real life. I mean, I listen to a lot of the beats and everything, the music that they have, but I think that's an amazing way to use this energy, especially for this Mercury retrograde, and to get that sort of energy of space of allowing your intuition and your awareness to be open. And the thing is about the gate 24 and the awareness is this openness to this idea of whatever shows up is okay, instead of this, I need to find the answer, I need to get this figured out, I need to get to know about this type of thing. And so yeah, absolutely, this is good. And again, the one of the things that this is half of the channel 6124, and then 61 is the pressure, it's the pressure center, and this can even be related to the occult, this can be related to mediumship, this can be related to connections, deep connections with spirit. So if anybody has that energy, the gate 61, hanging gate, or 6124, or even the 24, I mean, the end of the day is we're all in the global aura, so we will always get that energy of the other side of any gates that are just like half, like the half road where it doesn't go to the other side. We're always getting that energy at some point. So we will always get those moments of clarity that will kind of bring us to that, oh yeah, that's what it means, and maybe it's been a while, but it's like when you let go, I find that is when the energy says, okay, we're going to give you this now. It's okay. You've been very patient with everything. So here you go. You get something. So I love that. And sound baths. Yeah, I might even try one. Why not?
Yeah, go for it. I love them. It's just been a really great experience for me. And I thought, this feels like the perfect time to do this. So I booked in for, I think it was like the 20th of, it might actually be the day that the retrograde begins, I'm not sure, but definitely a good use of it. So thank you so much for coming along and talking about this. I mean, we could go on forever, and I already have a few things that I really want to ask you to come on and do, because I know that they will be phenomenal conversations that we can have and things that we can share with people. Guys, please say thank you so much to Denise. It's been amazing to have you. And we will be back for sure with many different talks on lots of different subjects. But in the meantime, Denise, please tell everybody once more where they can find you.
You can check out my YouTube channel, Denise Mathew, Human Design, and basically I'm pretty easy to find. And again, as I say, my website has some freebies. And thank you so much to anybody who spent their Sunday morning or afternoon or evening with us. I feel very blessed that you guys came along, and I feel very blessed to be here. So thank you. And I would love to come again, and hopefully we'll see that in the future. So thanks again.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Also, I forgot to mention your community posts on YouTube are always so timely, so timely. Some of them, I screenshot and send to my friends. I'm like, you need to see this right now. because they're just brilliant.
Perfect.
And they're always so like on the money. And you know, I think that's like your ability to tap into the transits and how it's all happening, because they usually speak really powerfully to things that are going on, you know, for a lot of people that I know very personally. So thank you so much for being here, guys. It's been a pleasure to spend Sunday morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world, with you. Take care, and we will